Good morning from the garden. It's the 7th of April. It's another beautiful Sunday morning. And I have a few hours in the garden, which I'm very happy about. I have several jobs on my list, such as planting my chitted potatoes. But I thought that first I would give you a tour of the garden and show you how lovely it's becoming and some of the things that we're most excited about this month. Let's start with our raised beds with annual vegetables in the kitchen garden part of the garden. We had a bit of a slow start. Normally I would pre-sow a lot of things and I did not manage to do that in time this year. So I sowed things that I normally start inside on the windowsill. I sow them directly, like broad beans in this bed, sugar snap peas over there. So that means that I think we're maybe 3 weeks behind what we normally would be, but never mind, there's still plenty of time this season to catch up. We're taking it bed by bed, sort of, and before we plant or sow, we always put in a layer of compost, about 1.5 to 2 wheelbarrows per bed. So we don't have all the beds planted, by far we don't, but we made a good start. We have broad beans here, sugar snaps over there, there's some overwintered wedge over here. And in this bed behind me, under the row cover, I have sown things like radishes and mustard greens. The most exciting crop of the moment is this winter sprouting, what it's called, purple sprouting broccoli, which is one of the crops that takes the longest time to produce a harvest, because you have to sow it like in June the previous year, and then it takes in our climate until end of March, April to start producing florets. But it's very welcome at this time of year. I don't grow it every year because brassicas are not easy on our light sandy soil, but this plant right here is splendid and I'll be harvesting from it today. Right behind the purple sprouting broccoli I have my 9-star perennial broccoli. I planted 3 plants and only one of them is really looking survived at all. It's not producing florets yet, but I think it should start very shortly, so we still have that one to look forward to. Meanwhile, in the greenhouse, everything is still growing and producing beautifully. The winter purslane over here is starting to flower, so I'll be taking that out. But things like the flat leaf parsley and the lettuces, I have many lettuce plants over here and there, and chard. They're growing beautifully. We're picking about twice a week, so we're eating lots of salad at the moment. And apart from that, I also have some flowers here that I can pick for little spring bouquets. Over here I have honeywort, which has self-sown in my annual cut flower bed from last year, and I replanted the tiny seedlings into the greenhouse, which means I can pick them weeks, maybe months before I can pick the first plants outside. And I have also some anemones and this interesting striped ranunculus. And then there's the most awaited harvest of April, and that's asparagus. We love asparagus. Our children don't, unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know. And this is the largest spears so far, so I think will be, but there are many more like coming through over here and there. So I think we'll be having the first asparagus this week. In April, also a lot of I think most of our fruit trees flower in April. And some of them have almost finished already, like the apricot over here. Apricot is the earliest flowering tree in our garden, and that also means that it's the most susceptible one to frost. In our climate, apricots are risky because usually we will still get some frosts when they're flowering, and that means that you get no harvest. Which is why we grow this variety, which is called Kyoto, and it flowers over the course of many weeks. So even though you can have some frost during the flowering time, there are more flowers opening and you have a better chance of getting a harvest. And that's also the case here. You can see there are still some flowers. It has started flowering weeks ago. There are still some flowers opening. We had a frost at the beginning of last week, but I'm still hoping we'll get some harvest. Another problem with the pollination is that the flowers are not very popular with bees. So if there are other things flowering that bees prefer, they will go there, which is why hand pollinating is a good idea, and I have not done that. So I'm hoping that even so we'll get some harvest. The second earliest flowering fruit tree in our garden is peach. This one is called Avalon Pride, which we chose because of its resistance to curl leaf. And also in this case, I should probably hand pollinate in order to get a harvest. Also look at the tulips. I planted those to coincide with the flowering of the peach and apricot, and I thought I was choosing flowers in pinkish hues, pinkish peachy hues kind of. And I really don't remember planting this one. It's way more orange than I would have liked. The funny thing is, last year I planted the tulips in 2017 in fall, and last year they flowered much later than the fruit trees. So I thought that I did not choose the right cultivars of tulips, but this year it seems that the flowering does go together. So unfortunately the color of the flowers does not really. Our food forest is still quite young, so many of our fruit trees only started flowering and producing last year, and there are still some that have not produced till this year, and they're flowering now. So I'm very excited of their flower buds, and I'm very excited about that. One of them is this plum, which is Reine Claude Vert, one of the most delicious dessert plums. And as you can see, there's a very varied planting in the herb layer under the tree, and all the plants here have a function, and that function is to support the other plants here and mainly the fruit tree. So I think I will try to film a separate video about that, because that's something that I get a lot of questions about. A bit about the design of our garden. We concentrated the earliest flowering trees around our pond, because the pond can store warmth, can absorb warmth during the day, and it can release the warmth heat during the night, and that way it can also protect the early flowering fruit trees from frost, hopefully. And there's another frost sensitive plant here, and that's a fig. We have one more plum tree over here, and as you can see, that one is not flowering yet. It's later flowering variety, so it does not need that much protection from frost because it's less susceptible. This one had not been underplanted, but I am beginning to construct a fruit tree guild around this one as well. There are plants like catnip and lovage and lupin and rhubarb. There's more, sage, and all of them have a function or a role to play in this guild, but that's a quite big topic, so I'll cover it in another video. Another thing I wanted to show you, because I'm really excited about it, it makes me happy every time I look at it, is this bright patch of flowering primrose. I grew these plants from seed in a nursery bed, and then last spring I separated them and planted lots in this pot under our pear. They're edible plants, and on Friday we had our monthly potluck, street potluck, and I made a salad, and I also I brought salad from the garden, and I also put in some of the flowers, so everybody liked that. And 2 weeks ago I think we had our nephew visit us in the garden. He's 1.5, and he just kept eating them. The last thing I want to show you is our mixed edible hedge that we planted along 2 sides of the property. We planted it in spring 2016, so it's 3 years ago. And this year it's really coming into its own, and many of the fruit-bearing bushes here are flowering for the first time. So I'm very excited about hopefully getting harvests from some of these for the first time. We already had the sloes, and the cornelian cherry have finished flowering. Then the cherry plums, and the Saskatoon here is flowering now, but there will be more flowers to come. And the great thing about it is most of these plants are native plants, and I think just about all of them are good plants for bees, for pollinating insects, and because we have this extended stretch of flowering, they are a source of nectar over a long period of time. So that was a look at what's happening in our garden at the moment, and I'm going to get on with my to-do list now, starting with planting my chitted potatoes. Let me know in the comments what your garden is looking like and whether you're right on schedule or whether you're a little behind, just as we are. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon. Happy gardening!